What is up, guys? It's Verns back here again with another Supercoach video. This time it is the AFL team preview video. I would say before the practice games, but it's not quite. We've already played one, unfortunately. Look, long time, I guess, no see. I was being pretty MIA on the NBA chat. I just feel like there's not too much I can add to NBA. I feel like when we do the Supercoach Swordplay podcast for the NBA, there's just so much more information there. And, this week we kind of went through my team on the podcast. So, yeah, kind of haven't really done too much of that. I haven't really had too much team fluctuation. I'll be honest, that team is just staying where it is roughly. I think we went up like 25 ranks this week. It's just not really progressing from that 2K mark. So yeah, I know I've fallen off a bit there, so sorry about that. AFL content, I know it's been a little while. I sort of did the team preview at like the start of the year, and then it's been ages, but we kind of know this is how I am. I'm not going to be smashing out videos constantly and changing my mind constantly and just doing different stuff. Like, I'll be honest, there's been a lot with the NBL, there's been a lot with the NBA, and this has kind of been on the back burners a bit. At the same time, I didn't want to overthink it. I didn't want to over-absorb content and maybe end up on too much wacky stuff. Sort of thing. We all know I end up with wacky stuff in my team. I'll be honest, there's probably something still a little bit wacky in my team as it is, but yeah, I just do want to be chopping and changing constantly, making a video, every couple of weeks, and the team's completely different, or, just thoughts and all that. I feel like we're getting towards the crux of it. We're 2 weeks out from the actual season, 1 week out from open round, and this is where it's going to get serious. And I'm kind of just going to bring up the team with how it's looking before these preseason games. I'll be honest, I've already made some adjustments from the first preseason game. I'm not really going to do a video breaking down all these preseason games at the end of the day. I'll probably do one between now and before open round, and then I'll probably do one after open round for the final team. But yeah, look, first of all, I just want to appreciate all those that have tuned in, liked, and subscribed for the consistent injections of Supercoach content directly into their YouTube feed. I have obviously been doing a lot of work with the Supercoach Swordplay in the off-season, become part of that family. We've done a lot for the NBA, as I mentioned, NBL, even with Scobes and JG. Last year we do our Rage Trade Mondays. So yeah, look, I've obviously been very active on their channel, but kind of neglected my own a little bit. So we all know my channel's really just to keep you up to date with how my team's actually looking at the end of the day, my thought process and all that, and then you get into the discussion with people, and that's where it chops and changes. Funny thing with that, I was actually gonna wear the Supercoach Swordplay merch, which is dope. Honestly, I love it. But as you guys can clearly see, I do use a green screen, and the merch is green, and I put it on, sat down, went to start recording, and realized I was just a floating head. So had to backtrack from that and actually put a different shirt on, unfortunately. But we will definitely wear that merch when we get the chance in the Supercoach Swordplay videos where I'm not green screening it up. But yeah, we will jump into the team. We will sort of go through my thoughts. I'll be honest, I don't think it's changed too much from my first video. I'd love to compare my first video's team to my current team. I think that would be really interesting, just to see sort of where we've gone and where we've chopped and changed. But I don't think there's actually been that much. I think I've stayed pretty fat with what I'm doing. I talked about it in that video as well. I really want to try and stay more traditional. I don't want to get too wacky. I feel like I always get a bit too wacky and kind of start off so poor that the season's unsavable, and then I end up doing wacky things throughout the year to try and pod picks for the sake of pod picks, because I'm so far behind that unless a pod pick pays off, I'm never catching the pack. So I'm trying to stay away from that a little bit. I can't help but add a little bit of spice to my team, as we know I do, but I think the spice is pretty justifiable, and we will get to it pretty quickly. And if you did see my recent X post, you already know what it's going to be. But we will just start the team off nice and quick for us here. It's going to be Jordan Clark in the defense line. Look, I really like Clark as a player. There's already news about Luke Ryan, but it's one of those things that when we look at the starting of this team, all these guys have the early bye, and we all know my philosophy on the early bye. Just there's no point in picking a player with the early bye, because, say I trade them in by round 6 or 7, but I've dodged the bye. The amount of additional points I would have saved over that period of time, having another premium at a similar price with a similar output, it's just not worth it in the long run. So I'm definitely, I'll just do my quick one here as well. So Rosie's definitely in my team. I have him down in my flex position, so I'll add him in a little bit later. But that's why I've gone for the Rosies and the Clarks, the guys that will be around the mark. They will definitely be towards this top 6 line. Won't be that far off the Ash, Whitfield, Sinclair, Nassers. Should be pretty close, but without that early buy, probably just more bang for your buck. I think if you're going to go for a premium that has this early buy, you have to have at least 100k value on them, or, sort of 5 points of upside. If you're bringing in Nass for this kind of money, you really need to think Nass is going 120. Like that's what I genuinely think he needs to be going. And don't get me wrong, in the past, this has bit me in the butt because we've had Tom Green, Matt Rowell, these guys that I haven't picked, and they've generally gone 130 for the first 10 rounds, and it's like, geez. And then by the time I bring them in, they end up obviously sliding as you naturally would because they just can't keep up 130 all season. But there's definitely points where that's bit me in the butt. So dodging all these players, it doesn't always work out, but I think it is just sort of the safer play, and it just makes more sense. Why would you take a punt? Any one of these 4 players, they could go bananas. But if you pick the wrong one and they go the same score as Rosie, but they had an extra buy in it, you might as well have just gone Rosie, Save the extra 40k. Doesn't make a difference. So that's why I do like trying to dodge the premiums with the early buy. As I mentioned, if they've got 100k plus of upside, usually they're not a premium, usually a bit more of a mid-pricer, or they're a fallen premium sort of thing. They've had a down season, or they've had an injury-infected season, some sort of reason like that where you can justify bringing them in. But yeah, Clark's in the team to start. I love what Clark does. I love what he does off the half-back line. And I feel like he's just sort of that young player for them where he's going to be the main distributor. And as the years go on and Ryan transitions out of the team, Clark's gets more and more opportunity, gets more and more of that usage. And we're potentially going to see that at the start of the season with Ryan having surgery and potentially going to miss the start of the season, currently not up to scratch in the team. So Clark could especially start off really strong. The only thing with Freo you need to keep in mind is Freo's not the team that notoriously score a lot of Supercoach points. Yes, they do have a fair few premiums in the sense that, you have Clark, you have Ryan, you have Sarong, and then you have Brayshaw. But then out of that, they kind of just they really fall off. But yeah, I like Clark as a player, and he'll be in my team. I'm really surprised to see only 10% owned. Doesn't have an early buy. Yeah, I think Clark will be good. Scrolling down, we won't be getting any, as I mentioned, Rosie obviously in the flex position, so I'll grab him a bit later. But scrolling down, we won't have any other sort of premiums. This is where we will be looking for a bit of value. I'm not going to go into depth with McKercher. Everyone has McKercher. You understand why you have McKercher. We know there's value on him, and I think even at his current price, he's probably got 100k of upside on him, and he doesn't have early buy, so perfect. We love that. Now, this is where we get a little bit of my spice into this, and look, it's going to be Lawson Humphreys. I'll be honest, watching that game last night, I don't know how more people aren't throwing this guy into your team. Look, I know it's a preseason game, and you can't get sucked into too much preseason, but what we look for is we look for role. And what Humphreys had is he had the main distributor role. He basically was Jordan Clark in Geelong colours, but for 150k cheaper. What he did was great. Geelong were looking for him constantly. He was mainly distributing the ball. He was the run and carry. He was the attacking defender. He did everything you wanted from a defender, but at an absolute price cut. If anything, I feel like Max Home transitioning to the midfield meant that his position becomes available in the back line. And Humphreys has just jumped into that position. Now he's the run and carry out of there. Don't get me wrong, Max Holmes is still going to do that sort of thing, but I think Humphreys looks like the main guy they wanted to get the ball to. They wanted to get the ball in his hands so he can make that aggressive transition down the field. And yeah, I loved what he did. There was a few times he was the loose defender as well, where he would go for an intercept, kind of miss the mark, or even if he was floating out the back of a pack where everyone else is going up and he's just waiting for that ball to drop, either get it or someone else get it and dish to him as he runs off, sort of thing. I loved the role he played, and it just looked like a premium role. At the end of the day, this guy is priced at 73.5. For him to get to 100k player, make 100k on his name, so here we go, Tom Stewart, that's basically a 93, 92 average. So, yeah, it's a significant increase in the amount of points he scored last season, almost 20. But I think he can do it. I was really, really impressed with him. And this is where it obviously becomes a bit questionable in the sense that he has the early buy, but I think he has 100k upside on him. I just think what he did, it just looked too good. Premium role for a discount, and it looked like he could do it. Now, I know his score overall didn't look insane, but he kind of had like 85. Now, once again, I understand it's a practice game, but he had like 85 with this role by 3/4 time. And then in the fourth quarter, I don't even think he played the last 10 minutes. You know, he was up at 100% game time in the first quarter. I think he was 98 by halftime, and then he ended up finishing the game with 80% time on ground. So, like, he really got rested towards the end of that game. And I think that might have just been purely because it is a practice game at the end of the day. And I think Bruin was playing a bit off the half back line, so it might have been testing him out a bit there. But yeah, I think Humphreys, he is going to be my spice pick, 3%. I was so blown away. Once again, these guys have an open round game as well. We get to see the open round game and see if everything I saw in that practice game is going to transition to real regular season footy, which I feel like it will from what I saw. Now, once again, with this, I kind of hope he doesn't overperform. Like, what he did last night was almost perfect, where he had a great game for 3/4 and then got rested towards the end of the game, ends up with like a 98 or something, 94, whatever it is. More or less, it's what we'd want from him, but he didn't attract too much attention. Like, I saw a lot of people on Twitter bringing up the players that took interest for them, and no one was saying Humphreys really. And I feel like he was a huge standout to me. So he's only 3% owned. I'm probably giving away my, bit of a pod pick here, but I think Humphreys was value. I hope when the regular season hits, we still see that same role, but he doesn't explode. If he gets like a 120 with this role, this is going to end up on like 30% ownership, and he's not going to be our pod pick anymore, unfortunately. I would love to see him get to like just a soft 90, soft 100 sort of mark, where he's not attracting too much attention, but he's doing enough. He's got the role, and then we can pick him with comfortability, and then he slowly does what he needs to do. What it does give me flashbacks to is 2 years ago when we started Max Holmes in our team. He was 440 and nobody was really on him. And then by the end of the year, people were talking about getting him as a premium for like 520, 530K. I think this is what Humphrey's going to do this year. I think it's going to be a very similar thing. I think he will end up towards that premium mark and people will be talking about him a bit later. So hopefully he doesn't explode too much in their open round game next week. But I still want to obviously see those good signs that he's got that premium role. But yeah, he's going to be my spice pick. Probably over-talked that, so sorry. We will try and speed run through this a bit faster, so we will just jump down to the rookies here. Now, look, with rookies, there's just so many rookies with this discounted price that I'm kind of just looking to save some cash at the end of the day. I think Farrow has a good role, so we're going to be bringing him on in. Lindsay at this point, we'll bring him in. He looked pretty straightforward for most people. Jux was obviously a pretty big standout and a lot of hype around him. So we'll bring him in. Once again, we get an open round game for a few of these guys as well. Jai Sharong, once again, just discounted rookie. And then we got to see Dirksen last night, who I thought was really good. I thought was really good, but at the same time, I feel like I didn't see him much. I'm so surprised by the score he managed to put out, and I'm like, was I just blind in this game? I was trying really hard to find this guy, and I don't know if he wasn't wearing the same number that was on the fan footy, because I swear I just wasn't seeing 45. But, yeah, had a really nice score, so we'll put him in for now just because he's that basement price rookie. If you're going to play as a basement price rookie, the amount to make money is really easy. He got a 70 last night, which is decent. How long's Wiedering out for? We'll check that out a bit more. But that's sort of the rookie makeup. Rookies, they're all chop and change as these practice games happen and as these open rounds happen. So, yeah, that's what the backline's looking like for now. We will jump into the midfield. I'll be honest, midfield hasn't changed too much. Butters is in the team, yes, top tier premium. Could potentially be an M1. If not, if he performs to the same level he did last year, that's still a win. Good captain option and no early buy. So we love that. Jumping down, Brayshaw, no early buy. Had a bit of a slower end to the season, but started off like a house on fire. Just really rate Brayshaw as a player and really regretted last year not starting him and then kind of getting burned for that. So we're going to be starting him this year. Next, we will be jumping down to Goulden, someone that, yeah, I think this is basically the same midfield that I had in my last video like 2 months ago. Goulden's in the team right now. We get this assess him on open round, but obviously he's just underpriced coming back from that injury, and we know what he can do. Is he 100k underpriced? That's where I might be not quite correct. Does he have at least 5 points of upside? I think he'll have at least 5 points of upside, which is really only like an extra 50k on his price tag, but I think he can get to that 110 average at least. So I feel comfortable enough putting Goulden in my team. Then scrolling down, yes, Oliver was in this last video as well. The one that we have skipped on is now Steele. I've kind of cooled on him a little bit. But I still think could be a viable option. Like, I'm still potentially interested in Steele, but you just got to make it work. And right now with the team structure I have, I'm not finding room for Steele. I also don't want to end up with too many of these players that it's like bringing a 500k guy that just sort of performs that 500k price tag isn't really worth it. I think he's got meat on the bone. I think he will definitely be better than this 92 he averaged last year. I mean, there was even a time he was used as a sub last year. So that would have been filtered into his score. Sub's obviously gone now, so he's not going to run into that again. It was towards the end of the season. Might have been this North game, might have been the Melbourne games. I think maybe both of those situations. So he's got a bit of he's basically averaging 100 before then, so he's got a little bit of upside, fair bit of upside actually. So I think Steele would be a good pick. I'm just not too sure with Melbourne right now. But one thing I will say is watching last night's game, I haven't looked at the actual ruck contests, but I still feel like it was contested enough and there was enough ball ups that I don't think it's going to affect these players as much as we thought it was going to affect them initially. But that might have been just because maybe the ruckmen weren't the greatest ruckmen last night. Geelong don't really have a ruck, and Carlton don't really have a ruck. So maybe because they weren't the greatest ruckmen, the ball wasn't getting hit out to space. It was kind of just dropping, and then people were tackling, and then you're getting another ball up. So, but from what I saw last night, I felt like it didn't affect the game too much. I want to make room for Steele. I'm just not sure how I will do that. Look, Steele's basically been in my team the entire time until really when I was making some shuffles around and trying to get Goulden in and whatnot. But Steele is high on the priority list for me potentially. Someone else I'll just give a cheeky shout out to. You're not going to pick him, but I do think Pendlebury's actually underpriced. And I think he's going to be a slider in drafts and someone I'll target soon in some of my drafts. Just in the sense that I know what you're thinking. Pendlebury's like 35 now. There's no way there's upside on his price. Well, there actually is, just in the sense that this man did play a lot of sub games last year. He has a bunch of like a 19 baked in there, 59 baked in there. And then he had a few did not plays. I think that would be the only problem with Pendlebury is you're going to get rest games rather than sub games, but he does have a few low scores baked in where I think at minimum you're probably going to get his score, but I think there is upside. I don't think there's enough to justify picking him with a buy, but I think a slider in drafts where people aren't respecting that 94 is a really good score for players to get, and people are going down to these, mid-priced guys that they're like, oh yeah, they're priced at 70, but they can potentially push 90, 95, and it's like, well, I think Pendlebury can push 95 anyway. Just he won't play every game. So just a bit of a slider in drafts. So anyone watching this in my drafts leagues, get off him. He's my sneaky one. But yeah, that's just a little rant there. But yeah, Oliver obviously with Tom Green out for the season, she just becomes a must-have in my opinion. I thought problem with Oliver moving to a new club, being motivated, but then he had Green, Callahan to contest with, so too many cooks in the kitchen. I thought Green's all of a sudden out for the season. I think he rolls into the Tom Green role. Potentially 10 points of upside I think could be on Oliver's head. So I will pick Oliver very comfortably with that. Now we will be scrolling down. I think everyone has this guy, Hayden Young. Not going to overtalk that. That makes a lot of sense. And we have moved Darcy Parish in as well. So yeah, not to overcomplicate that. I mean, you can already see it technically averaged 88.3, but injury riddled season. So he has a huge discount on his price, and this is nowhere near his best. He will easily make that money. Similar thing with Young in my opinion. So yeah, I think they just make sense. DeGoey potentially someone that people could consider really low. The problem with DeGoey is he's either big or he's go home or go hard. He does nothing. He gets stuck forward and doesn't get involved, or he gets a few CBAs and he's explosive and he scores 110. So few people have gone there. Fair enough. He's always got that forward DPP. He's going to be top 6 forward by the end of the year. No, don't think he will. Will he outperform his price tag? Definitely will. Will he last all season? No. Does he also have an open round game? Yes. So we will get a couple more games to assess if DeGoey is potentially an option. And then Treloar obviously got injured again too, and I'm just not going to take the risk there anymore. So, we will scroll down and make this a bit quicker because I am definitely taking too long talking about stuff that you guys have already heard a million times on a million other podcasts. Jager, yes, makes a lot of sense. Was brilliant last night. Will Brody, yep. Scroll back up because we're going to grab Sharp while we're here. And then we're going to get a Chase Jones and scary. Now, I don't really know too much about this guy, but he's come in, and we just saw the other guy that came in as a late selection who expected to play, and he was great. I think he's expected to play. I'm not too sure here, but we have a Freo game to assess that or not, and we have money in the bank to roll him around if we need. So that's just what we've got at the moment. Now, the ruck line, this is where I can actually adjust a lot of money because I've really had a flip here. I saw last night's games and I flipped from what I was on. I should probably still really consider Jackson, but right now he's not there. And right now I've gone for the solid set and forget line. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, Vern, what the hell, man? That's so much money to just be dumping on them like that. There's no way that can be correct. But as I said, I saw last night's game and I really didn't feel like there was as little ruck contests as I thought there was going to be. I still felt like there was plenty of ruck contests and good ruckmen will still manage to get hit outs. They might be potentially overpriced. They're both great around the ground ruck, so they still score in a lot of ways that aren't just hit outs to advantage. So look, maybe I'm overpaying for them, but I'm definitely feeling like this could be a set and forget here. And look, we have a preseason game to check it out again and make that adjustment accordingly. And if Jackson just looks too good, then maybe we just have to shuffle him in. Maybe we go for 3 ruck setup. No, I don't like the flexibility of starting off like that, I'll be honest. But yeah, that's just the thoughts at the moment. Plenty of money to, as I said, if I need to go down and find extra ways to maybe get a steal in if I want or upgrade Scary if I need, then I can do it through these potential rucks. But we will jump down to the forward line. Forward line, Sheasel, not going to over-talk it. Track, not going to over-talk it. Obviously, Ral injured, and he's just moved to a better club. Even if he plays forward a fair bit, he's at a better club that's going to win more games, and the early game fixture is just so easy. So, yeah, definitely picking Track there for that. And then we're going to go down to Flanders, who we're expecting to potentially be, top 6 forwards, so not going to overtalk that either. Yeah, forward lines I think just look pretty similar across the board for everyone. Ugle-Hagen's obviously in consideration for people. We just talked about Track playing forward against a really easy fixture at the start, but Ugle's missed a lot of footy and we don't know if he's going to be quite at the level, but we do get to see an open round game. If he kicks a bag there and drops 100, then you probably just bring him in. Logan McDonald, obviously an option for Sydney as well, and even Charlie Kerno, honestly. Charlie playing for Carlton last year, who kind of sucked. He was mentally down, playing for a better team, a team that's going to contest, and I think a team that really needed a good key forward because they were really lacking that Sydney. So pretty annoying they got someone like Kerno. So Kerno is only 300k and generally could be an option for them. Where is he? He should be just above Amadi. Okay, he's a little bit more than I thought he was. Did I go past him? I must have gone past him. There's no way. I feel like he was 330. Did I scroll past him? Gosh, how have I missed him? Let's just type in Kerno real quick. Oh, 377. That's quite expensive, actually. Probably wouldn't go there, but once again, you come out and he starts off amazing in open round. Could definitely be tempting people. We will quickly throw in Dev Roberts while we're here. Just don't need to go too in depth about these guys because I think the forward line's pretty similar for everyone, as I said. So we are just going to quickly grab Philippu wherever he is. Philippu, I got Liam Henry in there. Liam Henry can always change to pick it if I want, sort of thing. Marshall's fallen off most people's lists at this stage. But if I need to go up from these guys, it's not too hard either. Liam, Reedy, and Lombard are the guys I've got on the bench. And then just to wrap it up, we will be grabbing a Rosie. Did I scroll too much for Rosie? Yeah, 560. There we go. So that is going to be how the team is looking. We will just scroll out here. I'm personally pretty happy with this team. I feel like, just that awkward position where you can't... There we go. Got it. I'm pretty happy. I mean, if we look in the sense of keepers, I think, Clark, Rosie, Sheasel, Petrarca, I think Flanders is going to be one. That's 5. Cherry Gorn, that's 11. We're looking in this midfield. I'll say these 4 as well. So, I say 11? I'm cooked. So, wait. That was 5, 7. Yeah, 11 in total. We're looking at potential keepers with, a fair few mid-prices, 3 mid-prices in there. I think Humphrey has the potential to be a keeper. I wasn't even counting McKercher, who has potential to be a keeper. And I don't think Young or Parrish will be keepers, but I think they will be value. But yeah, as I said, I'd love to find a way to get Steele in there. I don't know. I think Steel definitely has bang for his buck on him, which is usually what you want with your premiums. You don't want to pay. You don't want to pay for what they're worth. You'd love to find guys that are worth value. You want to find a guy that's got 5 points of upside on him. You don't want to be picking guys that have the opposite, have 5 points of downside, or even if they're priced at their price. The only exception I think is Butters, because you need the genuine captain option, and then I think Gorn and Cherry because we need the genuine captain options also. I do think, as we mentioned, like Rucks are going to be a bit more questionable this year just because of the couple of changes. But as I said, from what I saw last night, I think we might be overreacting, meaning that these rucks are still going to be really good and they're just going to be viable captain options for us early, and they're going to crush. And overthinking it is what's going to be a huge problem for a lot of people. At least that's what I think. I think overthinking it could cause more issues than not. Bringing in these speculative rucks and running them in R2, maybe underpaying for your rucks and then having to upgrade them a little bit later to these top dogs because you're just losing too many points week in, week out. But yeah, that's going to be the team for now, guys. We will go through these practice games and I will probably make adjustments as we watch the practice games. Remember, with practice games, you're not looking at scores and just locking them in. I mean, if they're rookies, fair enough, especially if they're 99k rookies, because that's good enough. But for these mid prices and premiums, it's all about the roll. You watch their roll, you make sure they got that premium roll, and you lock it on in. We'd hate to see a premium have a roll change, unless it's in, there is obviously good roll changes, of course, more of a wing type, getting more midfield minutes, more CBA attendances, stuff like that. But yeah. Anyway, guys, till next time, hopefully it'll be next week after these practice games, but appreciate all those, and once again, all those that have liked and subscribed for the consistent injections of Supercoach content directly into their YouTube feed. Till next time, peace, later.